So a lot of businesses keep pushing the same strategies even when they're not getting results because it's hard to know when it's time to change. So if leads are drying up or your ads aren't getting the results they used to get before, it might be time to hit refresh. So in this episode, I'll walk you through 7 clear signs that your marketing strategy needs an overhaul and how you can make some smart changes to see better results. So if you're new here, my name is Josiah Roche and I've helped over 200 businesses revamp their marketing strategies, leading to a combined $73 million in increased revenue by basically finding what's working and what's not and pivoting, right? So if you're feeling like your marketing is stuck and you're just not hitting the way it used to, work, then you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Number 1 is you're relying too much on one single marketing channel. This happens for both inbound and outbound, right? So if you're putting all of your energy into one channel like Facebook ads or SEO and it's not working anymore, that's a clear sign that something needs to change. So markets shift all the time, algorithms get updated all the time, as you know, and what worked last year might not be working this year, right? So that's why you need to mix things up. So if you think about it like this, so if one channel stops working, do you have another ready right now? Do you have something to fall back on? Because relying too much on one method can leave you really scrambling when things don't go as planned. So if you can imagine you're running a business and you're getting most of your leads from, like, let's say social media ads, then the platform changes its algorithm, making it harder for people to see your content unless you actually pay more per click for that particular platform that decide to hike up all its prices. So if you don't have a backup plan, you'll pretty much feel the pressure right away. And it's not a good place to be. So this ties into what we call the diversification principle in decision making. So by spreading out your efforts across multiple channels, you lower your risk and increase your chances of success, obviously. So when one thing slows down, another one can basically pick up the slack. So if your current approach feels like it's, hitting a brick wall, then it might be time to try something new. So number 2 is you're not tracking the right numbers or any numbers whatsoever. So if you don't know important numbers like how much it costs to get a new lead or CPL, or how much it costs to get a new customer, CAC or CAC, then how can you really say your marketing is even working, right? So without the data, you're basically just guessing the whole way through. And tools like What Converts or Google Analytics can help you really see what's driving the results. And it's easy to get caught up on stuff like likes and shares and followers and all those vanity metrics, but they don't always mean you're making more money. And so what you need to do is focus on the numbers that actually affect your bottom line and revenue, whether or not it's short term or long term, right? It depends on your sales cycle, how long it takes to close a client, whether or not you're a cafe and it's transactional versus, you've got a few deals in the pipeline and you have to wait 3 months to close it. So something called the ostrich effect, which basically means people always avoid looking at bad news, right? We have a tendency to always stick to the positive stuff and make sure that we avoid hearing about any negative stuff, bad news, right? So it's tempting to ignore the numbers if they're not great. Okay, but facing them head on actually lets you make better decisions, and you can, face reality in that way. So for example, let's say that you notice that your CPL or your cost per lead has doubled in the past month. It costs twice as much to get more leads. So instead of just ignoring it, you dig into the data, you figure out what's going wrong, and then you can adjust your targeting or budget or campaigns. And by dealing with the numbers, you can actually fix things before they get much, much worse. So make sure you take a look at your data because it'll tell you whether or not something's working or something's not working. And if you don't have it set up yet, definitely recommend using something like What Converts, site behavior, and other things like that for your website and marketing campaigns. So number 3 is your inbound strategy isn't pulling its weight. So inbound marketing should be a steady way to bring in leads over time, but if you're not seeing good results from things like SEO or content marketing, then something's probably off. Even if it's your building brand and you're just not seeing that your customer acquisition cost is lowering over 6 to 12 months. And sure, inbound marketing can take time, and that's totally fine for industries that have longer sales cycle, especially in professional services. And so by 6 months, you should start seeing some results, though, some sort of effect, whether or not it's a butterfly effect of something you've already done. And so one reason could be that you're not trying enough types of content. So Neil Patel talks about testing different formats, like throwing spaghetti at a wall. He says, like blog posts, videos, webinars, to see what really clicks with your audience, what works, right? So for example, maybe you need to start with blog posts and then you realize that webinars are actually bringing in all the leads and sales. So you need to shift your focus to what's bringing in more inquiries over time. But you won't know unless you try a bunch of stuff. And so that's why I said, by 6 months, you should have a good idea on what's working and what's not. So this is actually based on the testing hypothesis idea in marketing psychology, and it's all about making sure that you're experimenting and tweaking your content until you find what works. That's basically it, throwing spaghetti at the wall, as Neil Patel says. So if you keep doing the same thing and expect different results, you're falling into a trap of the status quo bias. Okay, so inbound marketing doesn't always work overnight. We all know that. But if after several months nothing's happening, then it's really time to rethink your approach right now and try something new. Just pivot slightly. It might be doing the same thing you're doing now on LinkedIn, but doing it on Instagram, right? Or TikTok or whatever, and it might work. So just try something new if that's happening to you right now. So number 4 is you might be ignoring outbound or outbound channels. And it's easy to get wrapped up in inbound marketing because it's nice, juicy leads coming at you. They're all warm. They're easier to close, all that kind of stuff. And creating awesome content and optimizing for SEO is like enjoyable, right? But you forget outbound strategies. So skipping things like cold calling, LinkedIn DMs and messaging, even direct mail means you're basically missing out on all the other active ways to reach potential customers instead of just waiting for them to come to you, right? Which is what a lot of people fall into that trap. So outbound marketing might seem a bit old school, and it is, but it works, right? So when you combine it with inbound, it can really, dramatically improve your results. So that you try to get one inbound channel working fine and then one outbound channel, and at least you're diversified in that way. So if you think about having multiple fishing lines in the water, you're increasing your chances of catching something, right? Make sense? So, and when inbound slows down, having an outbound plan to fill up your pipeline when things get like, quiet throughout the year through seasonal marketing and things like that, then it's a way to at least protect yourself and your business over time. So number 5 is you're not thinking about the entire buyer's journey. So if your marketing doesn't match where your prospects are in their buying journey right now, then you're leaving a lot of money on the table. And so different stages need different approaches to the way that you market to people. So top of funnel stuff like YouTube videos or Instagram reels really help build awareness and build your brand, while middle of funnel and bottom of funnel tactics like Google Ads target people who are closer to making a purchase or buying decision right now. So it's super important to make sure that you're guiding leads through at every stage of their journey and making sure you got a relevant or relatable kind of piece of content that suits them in their journey right now. So someone just learning about your brand won't respond to the same message as someone ready to buy right now. For example, if you're selling software, right, at the awareness stage, you might create educational content about, industry challenges or things to do with what most people are going through right now and problems, objections, all that kind of stuff. But when someone's ready to buy, offering a free demo on a commercial page or a case study and running ads for your case studies would be super, super effective, especially with remarketing. And this ties into the idea of contextual relevance in consumer psychology. So the idea that your message needs to fit the situation that your prospect is in right now. So matching your marketing to each stage of the buyer's journey, make sure that you're connecting with the audience in the right way at the right time, not just pushing them away with messages that don't resonate or aren't relevant at the time of what they're going through right now, right? So number 6 is you're not adapting to market changes. So marketing changes really fast, and if you're still using tactics that worked like 5 years ago, there's a good chance you're falling behind. So new platforms pop up all the time because people's behaviors shift all the time. Big events can change entire markets nearly overnight. So if you take TikTok, for example, businesses that actually jumped on early for that platform saw huge organic growth without having to pay ads or anything like that, while others missed out because they waited way too long. They didn't jump on board the new train quick enough. And so being able to adapt quickly is huge these days, especially with new platforms like that might just, transform markets overnight. And there's something called the sunk cost fallacy. And it's basically where we stick with something that just because we put a lot of time and money into it. And so even if it's not working or not working as effective as it used to be, but if you're willing to pivot, that can be all the difference with staying competitive and not losing ground to competitors. So there's a big thing, like even with your website, you've put a lot of time and effort into it. Maybe you invested into it like 10 years ago or something. And, it used to work really well, but then all your leads and, your bookings just died off over time. And it might literally be you need a full website redesign. You need to relate to the market in a different way that's not the same as 10 years ago. Another example, imagine you spent like months perfecting a Facebook ad, right? And you perfected like a series of campaigns, series of ads, you've got everything down pat, but suddenly ROI like drops overnight and then it continues to drop, and week after week it's still like not as good as it used to be. So instead of sticking with it, you need to move some of that budget into something else like Google Ads or SEO or influencer marketing and things like that. And that at least gives you the flexibility to stay ahead of the curve and take up new opportunities instead of just being stuck in limbo and just hoping and praying that, it's going to work like it used to. So number 7, the final one, is you're not focusing enough on customer retention. So getting new customers is really expensive. If your marketing isn't focused on keeping the ones you already have, then you're missing out on a huge opportunity of lifetime value. So internal marketing is what we call it, where basically you focus on your existing customers, and it can also apply to internal employees as well, keep them on longer. It can be just as valuable, if not more valuable, than chasing new customers all the time, constantly chasing new ones. And that's why remarketing works really well. So when you focus on keeping customers, you increase their lifetime value, which just means you can spend more on getting new customers without hurting or dipping into your profits. So simple things like not really gifting existing customers, but sending them personalized emails. You can give them loyalty programs, gamification, XP systems, special offers throughout the journey exclusive to them. It just goes a long way to keeping your customers happy. Shock and awe packages. Like we've sent clients like gifts every now and then, maybe it's through Christmas or whatever, just to show appreciation. It rocks up on their door and they're like so surprised, and they stay on much longer. And it just surprised me when I first tried that a couple of years ago. And it's just something that's very easy for you to do. It's much easier than trying to like spend a lot of time and energy chasing new customers. So for example, there's been cases where subscription businesses offering like those the food meal plans, and they deliver it to your door. They try things like implementing like simple email sequences where you're offering discounts all the time. You're adding surprises in the packages, like extra bonus stuff that you weren't expecting, offering specific perks and discounts to new subscribers who have just joined so that you can keep them on for longer. And they managed to cut their churn massively, like by 10 to 15%, just implementing these tiny things. And it makes a big difference in long-term profitability. If you actually sit down and look at the numbers long-term, that extra 10 to 15% is huge. And this taps into what's called the reciprocity principle, whereas when you're giving a lot for free, someone feels like the need to give back, right? And it makes a huge difference because customers really feel appreciated and they're more likely to stick around. So by focusing on retention, you're actually building stronger relationships with customers, and you're setting yourself apart for long-term success, and you're building brand at the same time. So it's a bonus again. So we've gone through a lot of signs that your marketing might need a refresh with its strategy. And the main takeaway here is that marketing isn't something that you can just set and forget, right? So it's always evolving, platforms change, algorithms always get updated, new rules happen all the freaking time. And if you're not keeping up with all this stuff, then you're just going to feel it in your results, right? So whether or not it's diversifying your channels or paying attention to your numbers and making sure you're tracking the right things or adapting to market changes, you need to stay flexible. Don't forget, the smallest tweaks can make the biggest difference, even if that's launching like an email campaign to current subscribers or saving people who abandoned cart on cart sequences for e-commerce stores. It can make a big difference in your revenue. So if any of this resonated with you, or if you've got any questions, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear what's working and what's not working for you. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Cheers.